Welcome, Daredevil fans. I'm back to cover episode 7 of Daredevil Born Again. Make sure you like and subscribe to get all these reviews as soon as they drop. So, we are just flying through the season. Only have 2 more episodes after this. So, let's get right into it. Even though the title Arts for Art's Sake implies talking about the end of Muse's journey this episode, I think the most important character we got was the development of Wilson Fisk and pretty much the trajectory that he's on now. This episode was a turning point for him. What really happened with Wilson is that he finally decided that he's going to let his past destroy him. And what I mean by that is he's essentially won at this point. He's the mayor of the biggest city in America, or the most powerful city in America. He has political capital, he has money, he still has an ear to the streets through Vanessa. He's completely insulated at this point. And look at the conversation that he had with Buck. Buck is reminding him about all this. You have the police on your payroll now, you have a secret police squad that's at your beck and call. You have the ability to bribe whoever you need to bribe. You're completely insulated. And what does he decide to do? Because Daredevil has come back, he's going to throw all that away to basically settle old scores. He cannot let go what Daredevil did to him. And I love this scene because you can just see the wheels turning. And you can see Buck is like trying to pull him back from the edge, like, don't go down this path. You have everything that you need. If you really want revenge, revenge is living well. You can get to the point where no one can touch you. Who knows how far he can go from here? He can possibly become president at this point. But no, he has to go back to the mattresses and get revenge on Daredevil. And why does he have to get revenge? Because kind of like what happened with Adam, who he's had in prison this whole season, Daredevil took something from him. And what did Daredevil take? He took the thing that Kingpin valued most besides Vanessa, and that is power and control. He humiliated him in front of the entire city, the entire country, got him locked up, and took his empire from him. 10 years of his business, as he told Buck, is down the drain. So I think that's what stuck with him. The whole idea that he cannot let that go. But now he has more means to get revenge. He has the police, he has the political mechanisms, and he's not going to let any of that go. And that makes him very, very dangerous. But I also think it's going to be what destroys him because all those things that he has in place are just more means for Daredevil to take him down eventually, and that's what's going to be his undoing. And what I really loved about this episode is looking at Vincent D'Onofrio, how he played Kingpin. He's played him brilliantly since, the series started. But what really caught my attention is that when you look at these scenes, he almost looks like he's in a haze, like he's drunk or something. And what is he drunk on? He's drunk on the power that is just consuming him at this point. Every single scene where he's doing something that's consolidating his power is making him more and more drunk and more I'm not going to say delirious, but more just losing himself in that. And you can see it when he's talking with the police, when he's telling him don't let them, don't let the press know that Daredevil was here, when he's talking with the other officer about the discoveries in Muse's lair. He's just adding more and more corruption. He's corrupting everybody in his cabinet very slowly. You can see that most prominently in the conversation that Daniel Blake had later on with Bibi. That's all Kingpin's influence, where he's basically threatening her with a smile on his face, saying that you owe me and that you leaked that story before and you did me wrong. Now you're going to leak the story I want you to leak, or unless you want the consequences that are going to ruin the rest of your life. And he says all that to her very casually and with a smile, like talking with an old friend. And it completely unsettles Bibi, but it lets you know where Blake is at this point. He is essentially Kingpin's son, the way he's carrying this. So that was amazing to see. And Kingpin is on a roll at this point. And then we got the ending scene where he's sitting there having dinner, having used Vanessa to set up Luca. Luca's coming there thinking he's going to get an easy kill, gets his brains blown out by Buck, and Kingpin doesn't bat an eye. He's sitting there continuing to eat his meal, not even thinking twice of a dead body that's behind him. So now we've completely seen the facade and mask that he had on of respectability, that's completely gone now. Now this is Wilson Fisk. Now this is the Kingpin, and now things are going to go into complete overdrive. I think these last two episodes because he's going to be at Daredevil's neck, and then hopefully the Punisher is going to come back on the scene now. But now Wilson is completely focused on complete control of New York City and destroying Daredevil. So I expect these last two episodes to be full of action, and I don't think we're going to have a resolution because I'm sure everybody knows this is a two-part. Well, season one and season two were filmed at the same time, so the second half I think is going to be Matt getting his revenge on Kingpin completely. I think Kingpin is going to be kind of the winner at the end of this season. And then the second half is going to be Matt slowly, systematically taking him down. So that's going to be very awesome to see. But this was a turning point for Kingpin's character. So I think we're going to see him get even more and more ruthless over these last two episodes and maybe make some progress in ruining Matt's life. Maybe he targets Heather, who survived Muse. Maybe he has some way to get to Karen. We haven't seen Karen since I think episode one or two, but those are the main people in Matt's life at this point. Oh, let's not forget Angela, who survived Muse. Maybe Kingpin makes her a target again to lure Daredevil into a trap. So there's a lot of ways that Kingpin can go about attacking Daredevil going forward. But this is the Kingpin now. From now on, we're not going to see the mayoral Wilson Fisk too much anymore, I don't think, over these last two episodes. Now, remember that quote I mentioned earlier that Heather said about heroes wearing masks, and the mask is a sign of cowardice. So now that Kingpin's mask is off, let's look at the flip side and look at Daredevil. His mask is back on, but what is he using his mask for? He's not using it for any type of personal gain. He's not using it to settle old scores against Kingpin. He's not even thinking about the Kingpin at this point. His whole thing was saving Angela and preventing more people from being harmed by Muse. That's his only focus. So he went completely to all of his contacts. He's looking at Cherry, saying, Cherry, you need to get me your police contacts. This is the only way that we can save lives. That's the only downside I think with Matt would be his people skills when he gets focused on something are not very good. Everybody's kind of just like pawns on the chessboard to him. And you saw that Cherry doesn't appreciate it. We see that Heather is knowing that something is up with Matt and she's being emotionally held at a distance and she doesn't appreciate that. So she's getting closer and closer to finding out who Matt really is. And that's going to blow up in his face as well. And then that leads us to the big final showdown with Daredevil and Muse. Good fight, as you can expect. All Daredevil fights are pretty good, very bloody. I like how they use the canvas as kind of the final stage for them to paint their masterpiece, so to speak. And that final image of Muse dead and bloody all over the art canvas was a perfect final shot for his character. I also like the fact that when he was having that tense confrontation with Heather and slowly revealing how crazy he was, he used the piece of paper with his blood and almost was painting out a Rorschach symbol, which I thought was really cool. So very menacing as well. But with all that said, I think one of the things that's been disappointing, if there is any disappointments this season, is the fact that this still feels like it was kind of just a distraction to have a little bit more meat on the episodes. We had the bank heist, and then this one, this whole Muse arc was really just two or three episodes. And I really feel that that took away from storylines that I was more interested in, which would be Punisher handling these corrupt cops that are using his symbol. I think we still have to get that resolved over the last two episodes. And also Matt finally confronting the Kingpin. And then also, Foggy's death, I hadn't thought about it too much the last couple episodes because there's been such a shift in focus. But Matt had a line when he was talking with Heather where he stated that, this life that I'm living now almost feels fake, like almost like I haven't earned it. And that kind of hinted back to the unresolved feelings that I think he has about Foggy's death and Karen leaving. And he mentioned Karen briefly, or Heather mentioned Karen briefly as well when they had that conversation. And that kind of goes to the whole idea that for such a monumental moment in Matt's life. That should have been dominating, you would think, the entire season, but it kind of happened over the first two episodes, and then it really hasn't been talked about since. And that leaves like a kind of, it's left like a void with this season that I think needs to be resolved over the last two episodes. But at the same time, I think cramming all that into the last two episodes kind of did a disservice to Foggy as a character and what he meant to Matt. So I'm really interested to see how they resolve that over the last two episodes. And really, is Karen going to come back? And then I really thought that we were going to get a lot more Bullseye, but Bullseye didn't reveal why he did what he did, and he got locked up, and that's kind of been the end of him. So are we going to see more Bullseye before the season is over with? That's another big question. I don't know if there's any way that he can get out of prison or break out of prison, but that's something else to keep an eye on because the way they kind of dismissed him was very surprising. So those are some characters that I want to have come back and some storylines that I want to see that be very prominent over the last two episodes. As far as what else this episode stood out to me, I wonder what BB's role is going to be because it seems like she's going to back down after she was threatened like that, but maybe not. If she's a true journalist, like her uncle, she's going to find a way to circumvent uh, Daniel's threat and by extension Kingpin's threat and get the truth out there. I wonder if there's going to be any way that she links up possibly with Matt and get some information and intel to him that he'll be able to use to at least slow down Kingpin a little bit, if not directly, at least public eye, because Kingpin does still want to keep up this whole tough on crime image. And I think to that end, we had another shot that I really liked showing him holding up, well, I think it was Officer Powell holding up Muse's mask. That was kind of a throwback to what you used to see in the 1920s and 30s when bank robbers would get killed. They'd have their body out on display, the sheriffs, and hold up their old guns and everything. So I thought that was a cool image to kind of show the mentality of the Fisk administration and how they're, trying to be tough on crime and vigilantes and essentially what they want to do to Daredevil and Punisher as well if they can get their hands on them. So I'm expecting these last two episodes to be very action packed. I hope we get to see Karen come back. I'm not sure really in what capacity, but if she comes back, then you have to bring in Bullseye and other characters. So that's a lot to do over the last two episodes, but we at least need to have the Punisher putting in work. I expected to see him doing that at mid-season, and now we're at the point where we only have two episodes left. So we need at least some type of team up with Matt and Frank Castle going at Wilson Fisk, his task force, his police task force. Because if he takes them out, that kind of clips Wilson at the knees as far as his eyes and ears on the streets of New York. So we'll see how that plays out. But with the Muse storyline out the way, I think it's going to be full guns ahead with Matt and Frank against the Punisher and the corrupt cops. So I think these last two episodes will be very fast paced. And I'm kind of amazed that we're already at the end of the season. There is no episode 10. There's only episode 8 or 9, and then we're done with this first half of I'm not sure if this is the first half of the season or if this is just a self-contained, because I know they filmed the seasons at the same time. So I think this is just season one, and we're going to get season two immediately. If not by the end of the year, I think the beginning of next year. I'm not sure. I have to look at that again. But let me know what you guys think of this episode. How did you like the Muse fight? What was your favorite character development this episode? For me, it was Wilson Fisk and his kind of abusive power that he's going to be on for the remainder of the season. Or did you prefer Matt, trying to navigate his relationship with Heather and keep her safe, but not revealing, his true identity and what he's been doing? And speaking of Heather, do you think she's going to make that connection with hearing Matt's voice before she went unconscious? And is she going to be able to figure out that Matt is Daredevil on her own? And if she does that, what danger does that put her in? Does Wilson possibly use her as a way to get to Daredevil? Something to keep in mind over these last two episodes. But thank you for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll be back next week to cover episode 8 of Daredevil Born Again. Take care and see you next week.